Studio 1 this semester. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what I've done in the past and 2 of my most recent projects. So I'm mostly describe myself as choreographer, but somehow all of my work always involves technology. I spent the last 10 years in England. That's where I did my PhD, which was a practices research PhD. So not only did I write 70,000 words, I also made 4 major pieces alongside of that, which I wrote about. And my thesis looked at real-time video systems within live choreographic performance. So I've done a lot of work with video tracking and that kind of systems, although now I'm sort of moving away from that. But that's sort of where what I do now sort of started. So I got really into this idea of hacking because it's the thing right now, right? Everyone does hackathons, everyone's hacking. But what was really interesting was I was hacking my Connect, and I was thinking about what else I could start to hack, and how I could start to actually hack performance and choreography. And because I'm also an academic, I have this definition of hacking, and I've written a lot more about that, and that's another presentation for another time. But I sort of boil down hacking to sort of these 4 things that need to happen for it to be hacking. So I'm interested in things that repurpose, but I think there always has to be some sort of recognition of the original. I think most hacks are DIY or have low-level technology. There's this thing about collaboration, open source or sharing that's inherent in hacking. And the 4th sort of element is, I think most hacks are either, I can't decide if it's post-disciplinary or anti-disciplinary. That's like another debate for another time. But basically, you won't find a hack really in one area. So I'm going to talk about 2 pieces that I've been working on that both have hacking in the title. And the first one is hacking choreography. So this started in 2012 with a bunch of these sort of mini performances. I actually refer to them as the beta performances. So that first one in the top left corner is actually a Fluxus score, so from the 60s performance art sort of group. That one's by Alice Knowles. And it's a really interesting score because it gives a list of sort of definitions and then instructions on how to perform based on those definitions. So kind of similar to programming language in a way, right? You're defining your variables and then you tell them what to do. So I found that really interesting. So my job in that performance was to follow the score at first. And in the instructions, she actually exhausts every possibility of what you can do in that score. And then I had to find a way, in the performance, not prepared, to actually change that score and make a new way of doing that piece. So then the second sort of beta was based on this idea of making a pseudo language or new coding for dance as a way to score the piece, but also score it live. So that's that next photo was the first version of this dance pseudocode I've been working on, and my first attempt at live coding dancers, which has sort of become another project in itself. And then in the bottom here is actually an object-oriented score for a dance piece that also gets sort of coded live. And that photo is from an ongoing platform that a friend of mine runs in England about every 4 months, where everyone has to perform a technology without using any technologies, which has great results. So this is sort of a further development of my programming language. So this was actually commissioned by the EU, performed at Waterman Gallery in London. So you can see dancer A has certain moves, dancer B has certain moves. It becomes sort of JavaScript-y, but not really. And then here I have them looping the moves in the next picture. And I'm on stage typing the instructions and also changing them on them. So what becomes interesting is the dancers have to not only read the score and interpret it, but perform it all at the same time while I'm changing it on them. And then what becomes really interesting to me is when you start to add in things like if-then statements, because then all of a sudden they have to pay attention to each other. So there's like this other thing that happens. So as the piece progresses, you kind of see their brains starting to fry. I'm a mean choreographer. But what I'm really interested in this is this idea of, so there's a lot about language in here, there's a lot about scoring and live coding in here. And there's also this idea of like the human as the interpreter versus the computer as the interpreter. And that's really interesting to me, that I can misspell something. Like I have done that in every performance. I've had a typo and I didn't notice it. And the dancers keep going, right? Whereas a computer would have like stopped working and like that script wouldn't have been executed. So I'm really interested in these kinds of things, like how humans actually read code different than a computer does. So that led on to another EU performance. So this one is in the bottom here in Brussels. So this is Hiking Choreography 2.0. And in this one I actually collaborated with another artist who's based in the UK called Nick Rothwell. And so in this one we're like, okay, we're going to make the structure of this dance score is still going to be based on some sort of programming language, but we're going to sort of like polish it up, make it an animation, make some elements of it live coded and some actually generative. So in this one now the score is on the floor, which is what you see above. I'm going to talk a little bit about the process of making this. So Nick really likes Clojure, which is a Lisp language, which I kind of really got into because it's kind of structured in a really interesting way choreographically. So you can see like things get grouped, right? So like the first group is sort of like action words like spiral, rebound, expand, swing. And then our next group is actually like body parts, spines, fingers, knees. And then we also have these sort of like qualities, and we were playing with this idea of like, oh, what if we used more emotional words or like words that are going to be slightly different? And then there's different elements in this for like either the computer picks one of those, or I don't think it's in this screenshot, but there's other ones where like some of the mapping of these groups of children I can actually go in and replace, so I can live code elements of it as well as the computer can generate elements of it. So based on that idea of these like groupings within groupings, this is sort of how we started scoring the dance piece. Because Tara, who was working with me as a dancer, really hated the system at first. Actually, it took her a long time to get used to this idea of like trying to read things, trying to apply. So like in this one, so she has like a bunch of movements and then there's a quality that shows up afterwards. And she was like, I'm just getting through the movements and then I have to apply quality. Like she really hated this like kind of procedural thing until she came up with her own system of a way of reading it. So she had an individual system for actually interpreting it, and then the computer had this system for generating it. So yeah, so we started with these sort of like groups, so trees and children as you find in Clojure, these ways of her interpreting it, and then the actual movement words, these things like rotate, isolate, flip, and whisk. Tara and I spent a long time sort of workshopping, okay, what could this mean? What things are you comfortable doing if we put up in this word? What does it mean to do that slow? And that's sort of how the vocabulary for the score developed. Yeah, I have a video of this one, or an excerpt. So this is, the piece in itself has 7 3-minute sections, so this is one section. So yeah, I guess for me, like all of these things go back to this idea of hacking, like repurposing programming language to become a dance language, or a structure for an improvisation, dance improvisation. There's these, it's a collaborative process. It's also an open source process. You can get all of these tools we made on GitHub. And it is, in a way, a very DIY, low-level investigatory process. And it's definitely like not necessarily coming from a dance discipline or a programming discipline. It's somewhere that doesn't exist yet, in my opinion. So that's like why I think it actually falls in this category of hacking quite nicely. I've also, since working on my other pseudocode, I've been doing a lot with live coding, and I collaborate with a lot of live coders who make sound in particular. So I work with Alex McLean a lot. He's one of the founders of TopLap, just a temporary organization of programming algorithms live in performance. Or actually, that acronym constantly changes because you can live program the acronym. So we have, this is a couple of shots from a couple of pieces we've done that we've toured around Europe. And then this is actually a shot from a workshop I did with a bunch of live coders where they were actually drawing scores for me to follow. And then halfway through that process, they got up and they were like, we want to dance now, so I had to draw for them to dance, which is really nice. But, so yeah, this sort of goes side by side with my sort of hacking pieces. And in a lot of ways, my work with Alex, we're trying to hack each other, but in performance. So another thing that I do, which ties into performance, but less and less now, is a project that's hacking the body, which is actually around soft circuits and sort of wearables, and how we can make sort of DIY sensors. I've done quite a lot of work around crochet, and crocheting with conductive yarn in particular, to make stretch sensors. And then basically what I've done is I've made one that I can wear around my ribs in performance. I've got a lily pad and Bluetooth, which then controls granular synthesis patch in Ableton Live. So it's a really DIY breath sensor. It's not measuring anything specific, like in a specific medical sense, but it works. So yeah, so that's another part of this, and then that has actually led on to a lot of workshops on wearables and soft circuits. So these are workshops I did with a collaborator in Australia. So I was there in Sydney. Actually, two of these are in Sydney, one's in Byron Bay. And the aim of this was actually mostly to teach performers who might actually know how to sew something or do a little knitting, some electronics, so they could actually sort of feel a bit more empowered to do it themselves for their performance work. So these two women at the top are actually choreographers based in Byron Bay, and they've made this sort of garment where actually they have conductive paint on their fingers, so when they close the circuit, it actually was lighting up another part of a costume. And then that sort of led to a lot of sewing with kids. So this is actually at the Museum of Science in London. This was in May, where we made an LED quilt. So every kid made a sewed circuit and designed their own square. And that was hanging up for a while there, but I think they've taken it down now. But they actually did this like hacking festival at the Museum of Science, and this was part of it. I think they thought it would get more girls involved. It actually ended up being pretty even, like boys sew too. Yeah. So those are my hacking projects. So yeah, thanks very much. And any questions?
Any question for Kate?
Yes.
Thanks for the presentation. I'm just wondering, on the hacking on choreography, it's interesting to consider. One is that when generating, when computer generates the choreography, does it generate randomly, or does it have some rules to generate more meaningful or more logical movements to make the dancer feel more fluent?
Yeah, I guess right now they're random. but that was something we did definitely discuss, like how should it actually generate it. So there's like different types of sort of things we use. Like there's one score that every time a new element comes on, actually there's a choice between two elements and the computer makes that choice, so it becomes a coin flip, which is like based on work of Merce Cunningham, who's this famous choreographer who always did chant procedures with John Cage. So we had like the Cage Cunningham generated script. Yeah. And then we had another one that's like actually, this is kind of more based on that. We had like a bank of terms that we thought actually kind of went together. And the computer picked from that bank of terms. So we knew that one was going to have a certain movement feel to it. So and then in the span of the 7 different sections, we put it in a certain place because we knew it would have a certain feel. So we kind of started to look at that kind of thing, but that would be like another place to go with it for sure. Yeah.
My second question is, since every denture has its own way of interpretation of choreography, do you have done research on these kind of things, making the same choreography, see how the different dancers do?
Yeah, I haven't like formally investigated that, but I have done these pieces with different dancers, and they do interpret it different, and I love that. Like, I think that's really important that they're not, like, dancers aren't cookie cutters, and they're individuals who will read these things different, and like, I find that like great, and I think part of that's because I went to a really strict conservatoire where they wanted us all to dance the same, and I really hated it. So yeah, so I'm really into that, and so I've never done any like formal sort of research around that, but like I've definitely noticed that, and I definitely think that's like exciting. Yeah. Cool. Thank you. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, we have a WordPress that we document our workshops and stuff on.
Will you be able to just see
I haven't put it up there yet, but I've actually just, because I've been doing some workshops with kids here in the city, and I've just made an instructable for them that's like really simple, how to sew a circuit with an LED. So I'll put that link on this WordPress. But I have that. I can like show it to you. Like it's like a really simple, like yeah. That's there. I have that. Yeah.
Rough. Yep.
Okay. I just had 2 questions. One, like, what did you get your PhD in? And 2, like at the most extreme case, what do you see happening? Like, what do you want to see happening like with this research?
So, what was my PhD in?
Yeah.
It was in real-time video systems in live choreography, and I specifically was looking at how that transforms how you choreograph space. And so I got to make up a word. So to describe how that space is transformed, I call it choreotopology. So topology is a form of non-Euclidean geometry that's all relational. And so it's this idea that actually by using this technology, this video tracking technology, space becomes relational when you're choreographing it, because you have to choreograph. You can't just choreograph a dancer in a physical space anymore. You have to program the space. You have to design the video's projection itself in that space, and then you have to actually figure out an overall composition as well that you're choreographing. So I call that sort of system of making the space choreotopology. So that's what I was writing about in my thesis, as well as I made 4 pieces to sort of demonstrate that this is what I do when I make this kind of work. I can't just dance in front of a camera. I have to program it. I have to like become a video artist. I have to do all of these things. And then the future of this kind of work is that's an interesting question. I think for me, like with the sort of this coding and hacking stuff, I'm really interested in this idea of sort of like investigating, like, okay, we're really into these languages, like, so why are we like, and they're so different from how we communicate with people, how we communicate with a computer. So where is this going, and is this going to like start to become something that's more, yeah, I guess, a cross language between the computer and how we actually interpret language. That's something I'm really interested in. And yeah, sort of these differences between how people interpret and a computer interprets.
Singularity in a sense?
Hmm?
Singularity in a sense?
No, because I don't think we'll like merge with computers. So maybe we'll understand them better.
I mean, that's what language is, in a sense. It's merging two things.
Maybe.
To think.
I think it's more about understanding.
Very nice. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And Brad.
So I had a couple options. Oh, hey, I'm Brad MacDonald. I had a couple options today. I was either going to show you the presentation I gave to a group of 7 to 15-year-olds up in the Bronx about the spirit of play, but I think you're beyond that. So I am just going to show you some of what I do. I figure kind of get to know each other this way. So for, oh boy, I don't have an academic background. I have a Bachelor of Arts in Media Production and Graphic Design. When I was in school, my graduate program, early on, I made the decision to actively ignore everything I was taught. And I was pretty upfront with my professors about that, so it really actually didn't curry me any favor with them. But what I was really interested in doing is exploring a lot of design space that wasn't actively taught in the program that I was in. But I was in and I was committed, so I was just going to use the information for my own purposes. At the time, I became a political cartoonist, and I did that for about 4 or 5 years, publishing daily cartoons, all responsive to sort of like, current affairs. From there, I began illustrating comic books. I did a lot of indie comic books. My background is mostly as an illustrator. And then I moved to New York and started working at MTV Animation, doing Beavis and Butthead and all these different kind of animated shows that were pretty bad productions, but kind of a cool introduction to the medium here. I was also tapped to do a lot of experimental animation at MTV, stuff that never saw the light of day, never was published or shown to anybody, except for a couple people we still have it on VHS, which is fun. And from there, somebody was like, hey, animation is big. We need somebody who can actually design products around animated properties. And I was like, oh, I have a kind of a degree in graphic design. So I was hired with 3 other people to head up to basically create MTV's consumer products division. And I did that for a couple of years, and it was a great experience. I designed hot air balloons, I designed talking toilet seats, I designed posters, I designed, you name it, packaging for perfume and cologne. I did everything, like a sort of industrial design that I had no training for, but I would learn on the fly. It's like, I would approach the experts and say, like, what are my parameters? And they would tell me, I'd be like, cool, I can work within that space. And I did that for a couple of years, eventually left there, kind of explored as much as I could there. I did a bunch of fashion. I worked for Hilfiger and Ralph Lauren for a long time. Well, it felt interminably long to me. It was really like 6 months. Kind of hated it. Did it enough to realize I hated it. Failed. From there, I did a bunch of different things. Again, like the theme for all my work is has always been challenging myself to do something that I've just never done before. Technologically, I'm pretty agnostic. I'm not attached to any platform or any medium, and I kind of enjoy the process of figuring out what are the related themes in terms of dynamics and process across media and disciplines. And that's the territory that most interests me. So I did that. I ran a design firm for a few years. I toured with a heavy metal band. What's that? Yeah, I'm actually probably older than I look. And this is going to be the mind blower, is the past 14 or 15 years, I've been art directing video games. And my partners in that project are Wade Tinney and Josh Welber, who were graduates from the very first DT program, the first year. And I mean, the guys are legends. And so what we ended up doing is creating a video game company. Fresh out of, they were fresh out of the DT program. I was fresh out of a bajillion other experiences. We pooled our ideas. And that company was successful for the past 14 years. And actually, it just sadly closed its doors this past March. So now I freelance, I teach. One of the projects I'll just kind of quickly introduce you to is something I call Tools, Not Rules. I realized I did a lot of hiring as the art director for this game company. And I realized that a lot of the people coming out of both undergraduate and graduate level programs just didn't have the vocabulary or process or the tools to really collaborate with each other or organize themselves to kind of execute their own visions. And so I started taking notes on all this stuff. And so I started, I had an ayahuasca experience in Peru last year, and while under the influence of ayahuasca, I was like, I have an idea. I'm going to take all those notes and I'm going to start sharing them with people. And that is the thing I call Tools, Not Rules. And so twice a week I publish an article that's just a practical snippet of something that I've tested and tried and verified that it works in the real world. And so this is one of sort of my fascinations right now. I actually had a conversation last night with a potential publisher about doing a book for maybe Simon & Schuster based on it, which would be super cool. But my portfolio, in the past 14, 15 years, I've made probably 150 games across technology and media, mobile games, downloadable games, console games. Here are some just sort of the featured games that I've worked on. My specialty, if I have a specialty within the world of interactive design, it's user experience and interface, and designing for usability, and concept development. That was kind of my go-to thing. Like they would say, here's a new project, you have 2 days to come up with something polished and unique that will sell a concept, either to internally or externally to investors. And so a lot of these things, these sort of processes and tools that I've developed and documented in Tools, Not Rules, I would just apply to just bang things out really quickly. I'm very into sort of rapid prototyping, even as non-technological, it's just conceptual rapid prototyping, getting in front of people and sort of getting interest and reactions. Really an emotional design. Yeah, I've done, well, look at that, that's my band. I play world music, you can see me play several times a month. I'm an illustrator. Here's a bunch of sort of concept work for various projects. This is actually, yeah, I had like a day to do concept work for a game. These people were like, oh, we need something that's like a Tiny Wings. Western themed game. Here's something about sort of testing character designs across with different sort of like age groups in mind. Here's yet another style for sort of more sophisticated kind of a digital trading card game.
You do these all yourself?
Yeah, this is all my work. Yeah, I've done a lot of like corporate branding. I've done a little bit of animation. My style tends to be kind of either dry or wacky, somewhere in between. If you're ever interested, on Wednesday nights I host an improvisational dance show on St. Mark's Place. Here are my recordings. Here's fiction that I've written, and there's just a little bit more about me. But really, like the thing that I hope to kind of bring to the Major Studio is sort of my experience with lots of different styles, lots of like indie development to working at corporate level like NFL and ESPN and CNN and companies like that. I've kind of done the gamut. And so one of the things I found that I like the most about art direction is helping people shape their own ideas, helping people find their own voice, and figuring out how to execute that stuff test it, how can they work on their own, and how can they verify their own ideas against a group, a test group, or collaborate with other people. I love that kind of stuff. And so, yeah, there's a quote about me. Some more games that I've developed. And that's it in kind of a nutshell. Any questions? You again.
Yeah. How do you manage your stress and production?
I don't.
Yeah, I know. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like,
No,
yeah, I think I get it. Right?
yeah, it's,
Because the level of stress that we work personally and the level of stress that we work in industry right?
yeah. Yeah, and when I say I don't, it's kind of jokey, but it's also kind of true. I go into avoidance mode, and by avoidance mode, what I use is a lot of communication to manage expectations for myself and my team. Where like a lot of times where I fall back, if I start feeling the tension, I'll say like, oh, I'm getting overwhelmed. 9 times out of 10, if I have a good relationship with my producer, my partner, whoever it is on the project, approach and say, I'm getting overwhelmed. There is a solution to be found. Help adjust expectations for the group, offload responsibility to other people, or maybe even scale back or be more efficient in terms of what the group expects. Like a lot of times when you're like overwhelmed and thinking like, there's too much to do, you're just trying to do too much. And by accepting that, you can come up with sort of a simpler, shorter, more effective path to the solution. So like I feel stress and I use it as a way to sort of question my process. And am I working towards the right solution? Does that answer it? Cool. Anybody else?
How did ayahuasca change your artistic vision? Or did it?
It did. It was a really powerful experience. What it did is it just reminded me what I already had. It reminded me of the toolkit that I already had, ideas I already had, things I'd already done that were tried and true. And it just reminded me of all the stuff that I could already do. So when I came out of it, I still have it. I have the notes from my ayahuasca hallucination on my phone. Like at some point, like I was conscious and wrote an outline for a book. And when like the next day I would regain kind of consciousness and awareness, and I looked at it, I was like, I have the outline of a book. And the book content is all stuff that was already in my head. That was my experience anyway. Anyone else? Gotta be something. Yeah.
Why should we try and be a part of your Major Studios?
What's that?
I'm just saying, like, what would you say would be an advantage of trying to get into your class over anyone else?
Is it count as a reality TV now?
What might we expect?
I can't like compare myself to anybody else's backgrounds, but the thing that I do, and I do very well, is help people develop their concepts and help people find their visions and their voices across media, across disciplines, and across scope. That's it.
Thank you.
Cool. Thank you, everybody.
I'm going to talk a little bit about myself, but it's not about Major Studio. I'm going to talk about the Collab class. I'm probably the oldest person here right now. They ask you how old you are. I'll tell you how I ended up at DT. And I'm mostly involved in the second year. My main job here as faculty is, I'm not sure if you're aware that in the second year, the thesis studio 1 and 2 has a writing and research professor attached to the studio. And they work on the presentation and paper. I've been doing that since 2006. My background is in theater, film, and rock and roll. And I was teaching, I'm a filmmaker, theater director, and I was teaching screenwriting. I was applying for a screenwriting position here at the new school. They said we don't need anybody, but they're looking for a thesis writing teacher at the Design Technology MFADT. And I looked at the curriculum and I said, I don't think I'm qualified. And they said, oh, no, we want a narrative background here. There's filmmakers, there's video game designers. I was talked into it. And now I'm here. And I would say I've been involved with probably 120 thesis projects intimately, and probably about 500 as a critic in that time. So why is that relevant? It's relevant because I understand your process, I understand your fears, I understand what this program is about. And my background is, it's unique to this, but now things are changing here. I mean, choreographer, and your background, I mean, it's, so the engineers, there's, you know, we have our coders, we have our engineers, we have our designers, but we're becoming more unified in what is art, who am I as an artist, and how am I presenting that work, and what is that work. So actually I ended up fitting in, okay, the program. And the difference between this collab, we are under the umbrella. We've now done 4 terms, 2 years, 4 terms of this collab. It is not like the other collabs in that it is not about a professional alignment with a company. It is the opposite of that. It is completely experimental. It is completely process-driven. I'll get to what we do in the collab. I did teach a collab like that a year ago, fall, and which was a great success actually. It was with a heavy metal band called Judas Priest, and I had worked with the manager on many other projects before, not with Judas Priest, and I threw this material at the students and they presented ideas to the band. In about a month, I'm going to be able to make a major announcement that one of the students and I have partnered with Sony and Judas Priest, and we're making something pretty amazing. I don't know if you know any last year students, but Bobby Fata, who graduated, who's a very talented game designer. Anyway, so what is different about this collab? We meet. We call it a collab, and oh, by the way, this is Carrie Neal, who's the Associate Director of the New School for Drama. And she's going to explain how we work with the drama students, with the writers, directors, and actors. And the idea behind it started with what is the language of creativity. In theater, it's improvisation, it's scene study, it's character development. It's different for the way actors do character development. And what do we call things? We have the ideation process, the prototyping process. How are they different? How are they the same? How can you learn from each other? And how can we create work that develops ourselves in a pressure-free environment while we're losing our minds creating thesis or finding out who we are as designers? Well, we all found out that it's through collaboration. And when I started in theater and film, pre-digital age, the director did their job, the editor did their job, the cameraman did their job, the choreographer did their job, and you had to collaborate in this lo-fi, low-tech environment. When we moved into this age, and this program was founded, people, let's face it, you could make a game, a video, whatever, on your iPhone, your laptop, whatever, and you could not come to school, you could not have a studio, you don't even need feedback, you can just make it work. But I was finding with the students that they were losing something, that we needed to kind of go backwards to a lo-fi environment to understand where do these ideas come from, how do we develop them. And we develop them with people who do things that we don't do, or can't do, or we don't think it relates to what we do. We don't, and I will tell you that by the end of the collab, the actors are building conceptual art pieces, and the coders are performing. And it just, I don't push them, it just happens. And it just happens in the way we do it. And we, after trial and error last year, we settled on a formula that worked the best, which is that it's 4 intensive weekends, but it's still a 3-credit collab. And it's a Saturday 12 to 6 and Sunday 12 to 6 once a month. And we started large group activities, individual activities to ideate, and then we start forming teams and do very rapid prototyping. I mean, like in hours, or an hour building something and presenting it and breaking the groups down and mixing them up. And that happens in the beginning, and then about midway through, we form teams in which skill sets and ideas merge together, from the big to the small. And then, as I said, it's not about creating a great work of art, it's about the process, but designers and theater people being who they are, by the end people always end up making something terrific, and we have open studios. But we really stress the process. And what I found as a thesis instructor in second year is that this teamwork and this collaborative way of looking at the development of your ideas it's indispensable. It's indispensable to the theater students, I hope, and it has been indispensable for the DT people who have participated. So what I'm going to do now is show you, we have a bunch of videos where you can write down the Vimeo page, but you can look at several videos. This video that I want to show now is a compilation of the work from last spring. The reason why I want to show that is because you will see in the video there were 4 pieces that were created out of this class. A lot of rising second years. Gabrielle, who's a teacher in boot camp, you'll see. Because honestly, your colleagues are the ones you should be speaking to and asking the questions. And so you'll see people, you recognize them, you can ask me for their names and reach out to them and ask them about the process. What the weekends are like and how they feel it helped them going into the second year. And let me show you the video, and then Carrie will talk and then we'll take questions, okay? And I'm sorry there's no polar bear or monster in here. I mean, it's really warm, right? And is it really cold at D12? There's Gabrielle. She a good teacher? Oh, Gabrielle can
Wait,
speak.
hold on a minute.
What? No, you can speak after the video. Good, I'm glad you're here. Where's the light switch, by the way? I don't know.
Some of the difficulties that we faced while making this were projection problems, meaning we thought about doing backwards projection, but we had the constraint of the room's length.
Because a project like this, we had time constraints and we had to be efficient. We all divided into what we are each good at.
I think it's a very interesting experience for me, how to collaborate with After Effects technicians and animators.
I was in charge of the animation and creating the 3D elements, and Carl and John was in charge of the projection and the equipment and the technical part, and of course Brennan was in charge of acting. transform the space that the viewers in, and like the philosophy of the universe and how small we are, and that's where it came about, just manipulating the planets and making them into this tiny balls. Also, that's where that narrative came from.
We started with this idea of embody, that was our main theme, and what does it mean to take on a character or to take on a whole other person and understand their story or their backstory. And we actually mapped out the table and we're like, okay, if this character and this character are both sitting down, then we'll play this scene. I did the audio sound editing for this project, and then it was me and Nadine's first time voice acting, so we got to do that. Gabby was amazing as the mother. As a writer, I often go off and do things by myself, and so it was nice that we as a group came up with all of these different characters. We didn't really know what everyone was going to do when they sat down at the table. You know, it really depended on the dynamic of the group.
Some people were intrigued where the sound was coming from, and other people were just listening, some people were laughing. So we noticed something. With each group, whenever someone would start eating, the rest would start eating as well. It all goes back to our original concept, which was embodiment, and it wasn't really complete until everyone sat on the table and embodied them. The puzzle was complete.
The part that was most interesting about this project, while we were doing it, it was about the process of portraying the idea of someone else.
We like to combine different perspectives into our subject so we can explore more to the subject.
We did this character in stop motion. Basically, this character had no real shape. It's like it's a cloud at the beginning, then it's moved like you can see the face, but then you can see like a tentacle.
We were all like trying to portray some kind of bridge, some kind of communication between like cultures or different people, and somehow we would find a way to bridge the 4 videos together.
We are pretty satisfied for our result.
In the end, it was something completely different than how I would imagine it.
And I mean, you have to accept that in a kind of way, but we wanted that.
Sometimes we act differently depending whether we know what we watched or not.
Anybody going through the project was going through it in 2 different capacities, because first they would be a performer and then they would be an audience member.
We wanted to have the person, you know, like be more like in a reflective mood and just like let their walls down. And I guess that's why we ended up just wanting just everybody in the classroom to experience it and not like other people that came to watch, because we thought that since we had been together for a couple months now, creating new things, we knew each other enough to allow ourselves to see each other in that private space.
How I first interpreted it was how our lives have changed, and how there's a loss of privacy in this internet age. It's really nice to actually use this process to create like a happy atmosphere for everybody. And also because I'm in the second room, I can like actually watch the whole process of how people's first reactions when they see actually there are people watching them. So I think it's an experience for the audience, but it's also a really nice experience for the producers like us.
Ragnar Friday, who is an acting professor at the Drama for New School, and he co-teaches collab with me, and he will again be part of it this fall. So I'm going to let Carrie speak for a moment about how we work with the drama school, and even though I think we're going to do it at D12 again, we usually take over the whole place on the weekends, which is fun. And then we'll take some questions if anybody has them. And then if Gabby wants to say
so one of the interesting things about this collab is the opportunity to work with drama students. Most of the time that you all spend here in your 2 years will be with other Parsons students. Occasionally you'll have an opportunity to take a collab and work with an external partner, but it's primarily with other students who are in the discipline that you are working in, even if you come from varying backgrounds. This is an opportunity to work with students who are studying something completely different from you. Our MFA is a 3-year MFA. Students track in either acting, directing, or writing, and they spend 3 years really functioning within that discipline. This is the only opportunity that they have to really cross over into a space where they're working in a collaborative way with designers. The directing students in their 3rd year, they put on their festival, which is essentially like what your thesis projects are. Directors and writers are working with theater designers, but they're not working with designers in an iterative process. And so some of what Ethan was saying that's really interesting is this idea of building lexicon, about understanding kind of the dynamism between these disciplines and how crossovers and interactions can happen. Our students don't register for this class yet, so when you're looking online and you're looking at registration, if you see 2 people or 4 people or 10 people in the class and you're thinking, oh, maybe I don't want to do that because there's not enough people in it, our students will be registering for it when fall semester starts, so during orientation or right before orientation week. And there will be a group of writers and directors and actors in the class. Some of them are electing into it and some of them are being kind of funneled into it based on what the rest of their curriculum program is. This fall, as Ethan mentioned, it happens 4 times, 4 intensive weekends with iteration and prototyping and presentations towards the end. And then in spring semester, if you are able to come back to school a week early, we're actually going to be doing a 5-day intensive. Same thing, 3 credits, counts towards your collab requirements for graduation. And it'll be, again, a collection of actors, directors, writers, and design tech students. But we will be condensed into a 1-week intensive rather than a 4-weekend version. We are both here, we're both available if you have questions. There is a drama faculty, Ragnar Friedonk, who works with Ethan to kind of facilitate and lead this class each semester. Questions? Yes?
Are the 4 sessions also 3 credits?
Yes. So either semester opportunity is a 3-credit opportunity, and either semester opportunity counts towards collab requirement. Questions?
What's the particular name of the unit?
Of the collab?
Yeah, of the collab.
Yeah, so it's collab performance and technology. Technology and performance.
No, it's tech and performance is what it's collab, tech and performance. I was told by Ken that it's under the collab. See, this term is a TDRM and not a PSEM. TDRM is the drama school. But Ken told me that he saw it listed with our collabs. So just look up tech, collab, tech, and performance.
If you're on the UCC, which is the University Course Catalog, at some point I'm assuming someone will show you guys how to do that. If you just word search the word collab, this class pops up with all of the others.
Any other questions?
What's the challenge for this?
What? Oh, it's a Vimeo channel under the Great Wide Open. And you can see there's probably about 6 videos, a lot of student creative work. I mean, there's one video where a year ago spring, it ended up that there were a bunch of DT set, like it changes every year. Last year was mostly first-year students, so the work was highly experimental and open formish. A year ago spring, there were a lot of second semester DT students who actually finished their theses, who weren't theater folks. They finished them in the collab using actors, writers to get help on a video game, motion graphics piece. So if you look at that video, it's Spring 13, you're going to see highly polished work, but that was unique to that term. So it changes with the complexion of the students. I tend to like it more when it's rough, and it keeps changing. But you know, it works both ways, and it depends on the group of students individually and how they meld together. Gabby, do you want to say anything or?
Basically, like I'm in DT, but I have kind of a theater background. But everybody from DT that was in it, step forward a little bit, didn't have any performance,
Yes,
but it really,
that's true.
really forced them to just kind of like open up and play these roles that they would never do before. They started like acting, and it really just broke down a lot of inhibitions they had, and I think they carried that through in some of their other projects. And you're just forced, if you're scared about, if like this week in doing design, you're like, oh, I can't come up with a concept, design something in a week. You have to do it in like 15 minutes. And you have to like come up with an idea, actually get your team together, and then all of a sudden you present it. So it's really good in terms of like ideating and like coming up with a concept and following through. And you meet a lot of great people. I got some more production design work from some of the people that were in the class that were in the theater program, so I highly recommend it. And you can talk to me. I'll be at Revival after if you guys want to talk to me more.
Yeah, I would just add on that what's interesting are the students who don't think they're interested in theater or performance, what they get out of it, and that's really been a lot of fun. And I will tell you that by second year thesis, we will be presenting a lot. We will be presenting your work a lot. We'll be standing up here just like three of us did and presenting your ideas. And so it's just good to, it's interesting that Gabby said that, but that's true, being around people who do it because they're pursuing that professionally is and then you can just send me an email as well if you have questions.
So we'll be available for any questions and stuff when this part of the program is over, which might be right now.
And is this it? Because there's no teaching fellows or tenure. So how are you guys doing? Are you guys, are you excited? You're hot, exhausted, you're overwhelmed, and it's going to be a great 2 years. I have to say, this is my first, I haven't been in the building since May, and it was just like, oh my God, I can't believe it. August 1st, I'm back. And I tell you, walking, walking out there by the pizza and feeling your energy was great. And meeting these two new faculty people was exciting too. But I know it's warm in here, I'll let you go, but I really just love your energy out there. You're going to have a great time.
I'm supposed to plug the prototyping lab.
Great.
Oh, great.
Yeah, that's that one. Yeah, they just have to come and talk about
Great.
everything and
Okay, can they hear?
yeah, it's fine. I'll plug those.
Okay, great.
So this is a new website that goes through a lot of academic resources. My name is Mick. I graduated from ITP at NYU, which is a really similar program to this a couple of years ago, and I manage the labs here, specifically the 3D printing and laser lab, and a few other pieces of equipment that are all good for prototyping and designs, and many of them are physical. If you go to this new website we're still working on, you can see a lot of the resources we have. We have some pretty high-end 3D printers and also 3D scanners. So you can come to my office anytime, which is in the 4th floor of this building, 66 Fifth. It's room 403. That's where like the high-end 3D printing stuff is. And then in the E403 lab, which is in 25 East 13th Street, that's where we have 8 or 9 laser cutters and a bunch of maker bots, and also a CNC fabric cutter, and a few other pieces of equipment that you might find useful in your projects. So also I went through this type of program, so feel free to ask me questions of things I'm trying to put together. I've been designing interactive technology things for quite a while, so I can help you build stuff. Okay, sure.
Yeah. What
Oh,
is it STL?
Yeah, for 3D printing, it's all described on here, but it's STL for 3D printing, and then you can like AutoCAD or Illustrator. But yeah, STL is the best for. You probably use SolidWorks or Rhino or something like that if you're doing a 3D model, or our various 3D scanners output in a format that you can switch to STL on that.
You know how big the 3D scanner is?
Like what size it can scan? Well, so we have a kind of a lower end 3D scanner that's for larger objects. Lower end is in lower fidelity, I guess, which is the Sense scanner, 3D Sense scanner. So that can do large objects like your body. And then we have these smaller, much more high precision scanners that are good for small objects with light. So the high precision ones are for like kind of like element size or smaller, and then the other handheld one you can do your body or whatever objects.
Could you explain the process of like submitting a? Do we have to make a reservation?
For scanning, no. You can just come on into to 403 and we can help you out there. For the laser lab, you'll all be probably taught how to get onto Starfish, which is the program to reserve laser cutters. And then for 3D printing, you also come up to the 403 office and fill out a form and show me or one of the other techs what your object is and help you figure out what it's going to cost it per instrument.
Could you show us, I mean, if it's possible, is it possible to show us a link to a page?
Oh yeah, it's
I think it's on.
It's all going to be on here. If you get to this,
your My New School, under your student tab,
yeah,
it'll link you directly to Starfish.
Is it on the resource?
Also, if you just
No, it's actually on the student tab.
You just Google Parsons Starfish is the first thing. There's student success network. And I give when the semester starts, or maybe a week before, I'll be giving orientations for all of these, for 3D printing, for laser cutting, and there'll be signups that you can link to on this website, the resources at Parsons.edu. So just check there to get yourself signed up for orientation.
Last question: do you have to give a speaker or something?
Yeah. If you come to orientation, you'll be especially for the laser lab. There's like reliability things you have to take orientation before you're allowed to apply from there. So you come to orientation, you'll get a mark for your ID, so you're able to come in.
So orientation is like kind of like your certification program?
Yeah.
How many do you have?
It just takes an hour in the laser lab. It's basically just going over procedures and what materials are safe to cut and how the computers work and the machines work.
Is it only done once a year? Or?
No, we'll have it several times a week.
Okay.
For the first few weeks at least of the semester. Anyone else? All right. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Well.
Hey guys, how's it going? I don't sleep either. So, along with being a DT second year, I run the ERP and the photography center. Well, photography facilities. What we have to offer for DT students, we have equipment, we have some cameras. We don't have as much as Arnold Hall, but we do have some. If anyone is interested in photography or has been in the darkroom, you come and see us. We'll authorize you to use the darkroom. And for all those people who love to document their work, if you come and see us, we will set you up to go shoot photos in the studio. We have this link right over here where you can download an equipment catalog and you can see what we actually have to offer you equipment-wise. And then if we go to amtphoto.parsons.edu, you can actually go online, similar to the system that Kay showed you. It's web checkout, and you can make your online reservations up to 2 weeks in advance for equipment. You can take it out for 24 hours, and then you bring it back. What's that? Woo! Section F rules. In all seriousness, it's been a rough week. A bunch of the teaching fellows are going to Revival, which is on 15th Street, for a couple of drinks. Whoever wants to is more than welcome to join us.
Lấy xe quá nè. I actually have like pretty
Oh,